This is far from the best interface I've ever designed. We'll do more work now, but we really won't get into interface till the intermediate tutorial, when we cover how to use Photoshop objects in here. For now, we'll use the graphic tools just in FileMaker to make it look pretty good. And I've seen some great interfaces just using FileMaker tools, because the key to interface design is really organization, lining fields up, lining labels up, making sure they're the same font, consistency. It's not really about fancy gradients from Photoshop. Basic interface skills have you lining things up, and that's why I spent so much time getting these fields lined up here. That looks nice. It makes it look professional. They don't have to be lined up. They can be offset if you want, but there has to be a purpose behind it. So make sure that you remember the purpose of interface design is organization. So let's go back into layout mode, and we're going to show you how to use the rectangle tool. Before we do that, we're going to make a little bit more room here. So we're going to go ahead and move this up a little bit, move the header up a little bit. It'll make a little bit more room. We can move the body part down a little bit more. Now we can move these objects down, and I'll use the arrow keys to do that. There we go. And now what we're going to do is maybe move this down a little bit more. And then we can draw ourselves a rectangle in here. So all you have to do to get the rectangle is click on it and drag, and you get a rectangle. You can do any size you want. You can go up, you can go this way, you can go the other way. You don't have to start in the upper left-hand corner. You can start in the upper right-hand corner if you want. So once you get it where you want it, you simply let go. And that's it. It draws a rectangle for you. We'll go ahead and delete that. And I'll click on it again, and the crosshairs appear. And this time I'm going to hold down the Option key while I'm dragging. And when I do that, we get a perfect square here. Now, if you're on Windows, what you want to do is hold down the Control key when you're doing this. As soon as I let go, then it goes anywhere I want. So we'll delete that again. What I'm going to do is draw my rectangle around this. Now when we're doing this and moving objects around, I want to make sure you understand that there are parts here. And we haven't gone over them completely. We're going to talk about them eventually and get more detail on them. But it's important that an object be in only one part. Notice how this object right here isn't touching this little dotted line here. If it was, it would be in two parts, and FileMaker would make a decision that it would have to be in the upper part. It always decides to go to the upper part if it's in two parts. So it would still be contained in the header, but it's just not a good idea. The worst scenario is when you have a field that might be barely touching this dotted line, and FileMaker will say, oh, that's in the header, not in the body, even though it's mostly in there. And this problem really happens when you're on list. If I move this up here, move that up a couple of pixels, and then go to browse mode, you'll notice that, and this is probably not a good field to choose for that. Let's try a different one. We'll move that back down. There's no data in it, so let's move the last name up there. So it's inside that header, but it may look like it's in the body. We'll go ahead and go back to browse mode. You'll see that it doesn't show that last name anymore. So, and the same was true. I thought there wasn't any data in the phone number, but I guess there was, and so you saw that there was no data there. So you got to watch out about that. Remember, the key here is that if an object is in two parts, FileMaker always chooses the upper part. Headers above body part here. So we'll go back here, and we're looking at our rectangle we just drew, and I'm thinking I want to have a little fill here to really offset this a little bit more. So I'm going to come in here, and let's try a fill color here. That looks pretty nice, but it's hidden my fields. That's because this is like a drawing program. There are layers. Every time you put a new object on the layout, it goes on the uppermost layer, and you have to move it around if you want it somewhere else. So with that object selected, you can use these features. Send backward or bring forward. And if we do send backward, you see it goes back one layer and one field shows now. And we can choose send backward again, and the label comes through. When we keep going, but this will be, we know we want it to go to the back, so let's just go quickly to send back. And there we go. It's right in there for us. It's looking really good. So I like that. We'll stick with that. It's pretty nicely lined up with these lines. I think it looks pretty good. But what I want to do now is these fields are kind of hard to see with that gray background now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a selection rectangle. But you see what happens when I try to do that, and I'll undo that, is I'm actually moving that rectangle. With it selected, we can actually lock it if we want. Then you can't move it. It's locked now. You have these little gray anchors now. And of course you can unlock it if you want just by choosing that, and then you can move it again. But some objects you just lock, so then now I can draw my selection rectangle around my fields and put a white fill in there. Now they're popping a little bit better, and we can even decide if we want to change this to a little bit darker gray. I have to first unlock it though. Then I can go ahead and change it to a little bit darker gray. And I think that makes those fields pop a little bit more. So we're going to go ahead and lock that again. And now we can't move it anymore. So that works out really well for me, and I think this looks pretty nice. Let's go ahead and try a rounded rectangle. Same idea, just has rounded edges. You may like that better. We'll hit delete. If I click on it, move down here and hold down the Option or Control key, make a perfect rounded rectangle. We'll delete that. And then we also have our oval. Same thing is true. You can make any kind of oval you want, but as soon as you go ahead and draw an oval with the Option or Control key down, then it makes a perfect circle. So you can fill, if it's not filled, fill it with anything you want. I mean, there's all the kinds of options here, and really these basic tools can make great interfaces for you. So let's go ahead and look at it in browse mode. And we'll see it's more obvious where this data entry place is. You can see where the fields are, where to click. It's easier. These white fields pop out at you more than they did before. And these ones don't pop out at you, don't make you feel like you want to go down here and enter data in there, even though you can't because these don't allow modification. So simple tools in FileMaker can really help you out to design a great interface. Photoshop objects sometimes will be much fancier and more beautiful looking, but they take a little bit longer to draw because they're going to be in Photoshop format and imported. The FileMaker native tools that you have up here make things draw much faster because they're in native formats. So I tend to use a lot of these. Even if I do use Photoshop graphics, I'll try to use these tools as often as I can.